16th regular meeting of the Medford City Council, April 19th, 2022 is called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears. Counselor Caraviallo. Counselor Collins. Counselor Knight has informed us he's going to be absent tonight. Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. President Morrell.
Present, 6 present, 1 absent. Please rise to salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Motions, orders, and resolutions. 22-316 offered by Counselor Scarpelli. Be it so resolved that the City Council discuss a plan dealing with the future trash and recycling contract. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. We recently, I know that we just received information from the mayor's office that they're putting together a task force to look into contract, trash removal contract that's up and coming. This resolution was driven for the fact that conversations with people that really aren't truly in tune with the recycling format. And this came about in having conversation with my neighbors is we were looking at what people were throwing away and how many people don't really use as much trash, and the recycling bin being overfilled, and talking to maybe asking the city to do it twice, doing it every week with the recycling. And the basic understanding of opening, it sounds bad, but we went through one of my neighbor's recycle bins, and it was comical. They said, I'm a very good recycler. I know exactly what I'm doing. And then you notice that what the rules are and what people don't know in the city of Medford, at least people that really aren't in tune to it, that I gave them an example that they had a pizza box, and the pizza box, I said, yeah, it's empty. And I said, well, see this grease spot on the pizza box. Well, recycling, if you enter that into the recycling in a redemption center, they take that and they void that whole barrel because that grease on that carton voids it. So it's really trying to find, making sure that we have a way to educate all of our constituents. It's nice to think that everybody's in tune to recycling, but not understanding the true rules and what takes and what they don't take, and understanding that if they go through something and they see a jar of peanut butter that hasn't been cleaned out, that voids the whole barrel. They from what I've been told, it's not apples to apples as we look to true data when we go to the contract. So the hope is, I saw the contact from the mayor's office, and that we're starting, did anybody else get that? Yeah, so they're starting a task force, and I think one of the biggest pieces we need is just, part of this is to make a resolution and put it out there that we ask for a process that we find a way to educate our constituents on the do's and don'ts of recycling. Something simple, bullet points, even a one-page tutorial where it shows the basic concepts, because I don't think people understand for the fact that what the contract will look like moving into our next contract negotiations. Because it's going to be expensive. It's going to come back to the taxpayers. So I just want to make sure that that I brought that up this evening. I'm excited to see that the mayor's already moving forward with this and putting together a task force that's going to be addressing this. I just ask that, really an education piece has to be in the forefront. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell, and thank you, Counselor Scarpelli, for putting this on the agenda tonight. This is, as we know from last week, an issue that I'm very passionate about as well. And I think when we're talking about, looking ahead to the opportunity to have a new contract with a waste and recycling hauler, I think you raised a great point, which is that it's not just, what they're doing on their end to make sure that we're recycling and disposing of waste with maximum efficiency, but also making sure that constituents have the knowledge that they need to really take full advantage of that. So I think it's really important that, as you say, an education campaign be a part of wherever we go from here. So Just be happy to support this tonight and really looking forward to getting more clarity on the scope of the solid waste task force from here on out. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Counselor Collins. And if I could, from the chair, I want to thank Counselor Scarpelli for bringing this up, particularly the recycling issue. In the interim, despite cities and towns having vastly different policies as far as, single stream stuff like that, there is a website, recyclesmartma.org, that applies for the whole state. You can put in, as Counselor Scarpelli was saying, you can put in the item you're trying to recycle. It'll tell you if it will be processed or not, because he's exactly right that items contaminate, and just the way the process works, they will, a whole load that you think you've got recycling is going to the trash. So I really thank you for bringing that up. And it's recyclesmartma.org.
Thank you.
So I do have, Counselor Scarpelli, a resolution asking the administration to develop a process for education regarding future recycling and trash.
Please. And it would be nice is to share this site. This is perfect. I didn't realize this was out, that as part of the education piece. I think that once, and it's not the people, like I said, it's not the person that's really invested in recycling. It's the common person that really doesn't understand. And, when you look at the numbers, when it comes down to it, we're losing a lot in trash where people think they're doing the right thing. So education, I think, is key. Thank you.
Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, Council Scarpelli is right. I remember going to a meeting with Waste Management a couple of years ago, and they actually had a list of the things, and I realized all the stuff I was throwing that was really bad too. And people think, right, you're right. People think they're doing a good job by just throwing it in. Really not. Do we know when our contract is up? I think the chief of staff has said with Waste Management, and when we're going to be, or has it already gone out to bid?
I would have, thank you, through you, President Morrell, Councilor Carviallo. I don't have the date in front of me. I believe we're about a year and a half out, but I can double check that. and
Okay,
get
no, I'm
that.
just curious. I didn't know if we were coming up this year, but about a year and a half.
Roughly in a year and a half is my
So somewhere around
recollection.
20 and 22.
That's my recollection, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Comments from the public? So on the motion of Counselor Scarpelli, as amended by Counselor Scarpelli and seconded by Counselor Collins. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Counselor Singh.
I just saw that there are a few people in the audience here, and I believe on Zoom, who are here to talk about the SOI, the statement of interest. I was wondering if I could motion to take this out of order.
On the motion of Counselor Singh to suspend the rules to
Second.
take paper, let me find the number. If anyone has it, please. Look back. Paper 22-324, seconded by Counselor Carviallo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The rules are suspended. 22-324, to Honorable President Morrell, Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council. Dear President Morrell and members of the City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approves the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA, Statement of Interest on behalf of Medford High School that has been prepared by the Medford Public Schools for consideration for the MSBA's core program. The submission is in follow-up to the March 31st letter you received from the Superintendent of Schools. Superintendent Maurice Edouard Vincent and Assistant Superintendent David Murphy will be on hand at your meeting should there be any questions or additional information that members would like to obtain. Thank you for your consideration. MSBA required form of vote to submit statement of interest. Resolved, having convened an open meeting on April 19th, 2022, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the City Council of the City of Medford, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize Superintendent Maurice Edouard Vincent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 2022 for Medford High School located at 489 Winthrop Street, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The Medford City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the City of Medford to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
President Morrell,
Counselor Collins.
motion to waive the reading for in lieu of a summary.
On the motion of Counselor Collins to waive the reading for overview from the superintendent, seconded by Counselor Carviallo. All those in favor? All right, all those opposed? Motion passes. Superintendent Edwardson, if you'd like to give us an overview about what's being requested and what we'll be voting on tonight.
Thank you, President Morrell and honorable body. We thank you for your support of this MSBA application, our statement of interest. Again, our high school is in serious need of repair and renovation, and we are hoping that with your support, we will be able to this time be approved by MSBA to be considered for renovation or how can I say it, a new high school to be able to be built for us here in Medford. It's our statement of interest, and we are asking MSBA to approve us for the core program. And we explained statutory priorities number 5 and number 7. Those are the 2 key areas that we are requesting that MSBA consider for Medford High School's core program. I don't
And
know
I
if there are
can just
any
read
other
out, so
questions.
statutory, unless you want to read what those 2 priorities are, just for folks who might not have.
So
have it in front of me.
statutory priority number 5 is regarding replace, renovate, and modernize the school facility systems, including the roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation to increase and improve energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. And statutory priority number 7 was replacement of, in addition to obsolete buildings, in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam Superintendent, for being here. I think everyone in the community is aware of the condition of our high school. It's probably one of the public buildings that people visit the most in our city, and having attended the school relatively recently, I can attest to some of the statements made in here. I think, it's essential for us as a city to show a unified front, to move through the process, and make sure that the MSBA understands that we really are serious about this, and it's something that we want to address. So I'm hopeful tonight that we can move this forward, get our statement of interest in, and make sure that this process really gets off to the start that it needs to get off to. So I'll certainly be voting for it tonight. I would also say, I think we know that this community has a lot of capital needs across the board. We're not talking about how we're going to address all of those tonight. This is just a statement of interest to go to the MSBA, get a proposal in front of them, start thinking about how much money that might cost. But I certainly think that this project and a number of other projects are due immediate consideration by the city, and I'm hopeful that we can fund all of them promptly. So thank you again for bringing this forward, and I support it.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Counselor Scarpelli?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Superintendent. I know that this is something that I think we would be foolish not to support this evening. I think my first question is when would we know if we would be accepted or what we would be awarded if that's the case? Do we have a timeline with that?
I'm going to ask Mr. Murphy to come give some of the specifics.
Thank you.
Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations.
Thank you, Dr. Edward Vincent, and thank you, Counselor, for your question. There's not a very specific timeline, but I will quote one of the MSBA officials that I had the opportunity to speak with in the course of preparing the documentation before you this evening. And I believe her exact words, if you don't hear from us for a very long time, as in several months, don't panic. And so sometimes it can be 6 months, sometimes it can be closer to a year. It depends, frankly, on how many communities submit the statements of interest to try to get into the MSBA pipeline. And then from that point, their sort of internal work begins. So it would be measured in at least months.
Okay, thank you. And the reason why I bring that up is because of what Council Bears did say, that it definitely will be substantial. And what we need to look at is not just the high school, but as we're moving forward, other capital projects, our other new schools that aren't new anymore, that are falling disrepair themselves. We can go on and on, fire station, we could talk about different city buildings and, you know, other wishes and hopes. So I think that not, I don't want to put this, just I think to put the administration on notice that when it comes to money and that vote, I would hope we'd all vote unanimously to see where this goes tonight. But as we move forward, I think what would be a travesty is that we don't have true numbers when you look at what else we have to do in the city. And because the worst thing I want to see is, you know, pitting one group against the other, what we need. We don't need this in our community. So I think that having that capital plan in place so we can look at actual figures, so we can make educated decisions when the time comes, because I certainly don't want to deny it when it comes time for talking about money. And I don't want to deny it because I don't know what the rest of the needs of the community are going to be. So that's all I would ask. Not that it's a warning, but it's just to get the word out there. I don't want to be the council says no on a money paper dealing with improvement of the schools when we don't know what's happening with the rest of the community. So I would hope that the administration really pays attention to that as we move forward, because I walked to the school the other day and my daughter goes there and my son graduated there and I coached there for years, and you just can't keep ahead of it. It's just it's nobody's fault but times, and it's a mess. So we know it has to be done. There's a lot of, I think we're losing our kids now. I think unfortunately we're losing a lot of kids to different school systems, whether it be Matanon. You know, we all thought just a few years ago Matanon was a school of the past. Now all of a sudden it's revitalized and we see droves of Medford kids leaving. And that's one of the reasons why parents tell me they're leaving, is because of you've seen Medford High School. And that's just not the way to be. I think, you know, we're very fortunate that we have great teachers, administrators at the high school that make me feel comfortable knowing that my daughter's getting a great education and she's going to move forward for the next chapter in her life on a solid footing. But you can't defend some of the things we see with some of the parents that leave for that reason. So I hope my colleagues all support this. And like I said, when it comes down to the real thing and we start talking about real money, that we need to find a way to make sure we fund these important initiatives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. And Maurice, Dr. Maurice, thank you for coming. This is something, I've supported many times in the past. Sort of your Christmas list to the state. If they were to come back with just one thing, what would your number one choice? What would your number one thing want if to come back with? I know we asked for a lot of stuff, but what would be what's the number one biggest concern that you have?
If MSBA was going to give me one thing, it would be that they would approve our petition to go for the core program. In the past, sometimes we've also attempted to go for the accelerated repair program, where they just focus on a small section of the high school and repair a small section. But I think right now, where the building is over 50 years old, there are so many areas that are just starting to show their age. And it wouldn't be to just go and focus on one area. We need to really fix the entire structure, from bathrooms to leaks to the pipes bursting. So my wish list would be that MSBA approves us for the core program. It takes a very long time. So from this point to actually having something done could take anywhere from 8 to 10 years. There were many steps, but we do need to start somewhere. And right now, the building's 50 years old. If it were to take a full 10 years, the building would then be 60 plus years old. So that would be my wish, that we would be approved, receive full approval from MSBA.
Being one of the first graduating classes out of there 50 years ago, I'm showing my age too. But again, these are things that come up with every year. And again, they're all good things, and they're all things that we need. And again, and you probably left out a lot of stuff here that you need also, and I get it. I will, I say I've supported this in the past, and I will support it again tonight. And like Council Scott Pelley says, we need to have a plan going forward there. So that even in the event that we get some money, we're gonna have to put money in too. So this is not a freebie program. It's a loan. So I think people need to understand that.
I think one other piece that people need to be aware of as well, when we merged both high schools, the vocational side and the comprehensive side, we now have about 45% enrollment on the vocational side of the house, the CTE side. And so we currently have 15 programs there, but there are other programs that we would like to offer to really give our students the greatest opportunities. And again, the limitations with the physical plant, that would limit us from being able to offer some of additional programming for our students. So I really feel like if MSBA, if your body approves our application and MSBA receives our statement of interest and allows us to move on to the next phase, it will allow us to really keep Medford out in front of the 8 ball and really giving our students the greatest opportunities possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Councilor Singh.
Thank you so much for coming to the city council meeting to present. Being a recent student from there, I can attest to how great the education in the building is. But I think a lot of people, they see the building and they don't realize how great our education there is, which leads to this problem of outflow. And there's also the problem that you've mentioned in the statement of interest that, with around a third of the classrooms not having natural light, with what you describe as a bleak environment that students feel. And I, as someone who's gone there recently, I can definitely tell you that this is what most students there feel. It does hamper the education that we could be giving to our children. And it sounds like, given the merger of the two schools too, that there are significant differences in programming between what we could be offering to our kids versus what we are currently offering to our kids. And so I think these are important points to bring out in this meeting. I just thought this statement of interest was very well put together, and I wanted to quickly bring up some points that you guys had brought up so that our residents of the city could also hear them. But you mentioned that there's suboptimal ADA accessibility, fire safety, security, and technological aspects. And with the security point, you explained that while the school is a safe environment, there are sometimes the age of the building does pose some challenges compared to what we could optimally be having in the building. You've discussed the environmental aspects of the challenge of the institution right now as well, where MHS is estimated to be expending 77% more energy than an average American school facility, which is really shocking.
Unbelievable.
And you've also mentioned that there are considerable challenges with respects to the cost and removal of hazardous material when it comes to air filtration, which we all, I think now realize is such a priority for all of us. And I think you really bring out the point in this report that there are costs to the renovations that we need to keep this building in operation. And so if we are constantly renovating bit by piece without a grand scheme, without a grand plan, which we would need estimates for, we could be spending more money in the future than if we actually had like an actual plan. And so that's another reason why I think
Absolutely.
approving this tonight is so important, right?
Yes.
Because it actually is fiscally prudent. If we can get a bigger picture, if we can get all the information that we can get from the MSBA to know, to know what should we be spending on, how much is it going to cost, and compared to not going on with this plan, what does that look like? So I think you did a really good, your office did a really great job with presenting that in this report. You also have described wildly fluctuating temperatures and relocations of classrooms. I think, and malfunctioning HVAC systems. I think you really capture for, I think, all residents in the city, the real gravity of the situation in that building and the urgency of action. And so I just wanted to bring those points out because I thought this was very well put together, and I think all of our residents deserve a chance to hear what you've put in this report.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the team as well who worked on putting everything together. Thank you, Mr. Murphy, and all the others that worked. And again, I think the report actually details many of the things that need addressing. And the fact that the building is not air conditioned and sometimes we have very hot summers. There are a lot of things that our students graciously put up with, but we know it's not easy for them. So this is our hope, to give our students the best quality education in the best facility possible if we are granted by MSBA and by your body to move forward. So I humbly request your support with this statement of interest application. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. Thank you, Dr. Edouard Vincent. Any Representative Bears?
Just an aside, Counselor Singh reminded me of, and I think this is important for everyone to realize, sweating through an AP physics test in lecture hall 2, or the MCAS, or, SATs, PSATs. I mean, there's documented studies about the impact of the environment on student outcomes directly. If you can't sit through a test, that's going to make it hard for you to take the test. So just another reason to be supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bears. The motion of Counselor Carviallo. Are there any further discussion from counselors, or would any members of the public like to speak? Absolutely. I do have one letter to read into the record. I don't see anyone who wants to speak in person, seeing on Zoom. I do just have one letter from a resident to read into the record. This is from Luke Preisner at 140 Forest Street. Dear City Councilors, I address you this evening to ask for unanimous support for Medford High School's application to the state's School Building Assistant Program via Statement of Interest, SOI. Today's vote is about SOI priorities and community unity. It should not be confused with other subjects such as tax levies or project specifics. Neither of those is in play as a result of this vote. Instead, the district, working on behalf of thousands of Medford parents and residents, asks each of you to endorse the priorities they've selected to highlight before the MSBA Board of Directors. Medford's application will be one among probably 100 such applications to the MSBA this year, out of which only about a 10th are selected into the MSBA program. Therefore, it's very important to show the MSBA that we in Medford are all united in this cause. The high school is now over 50 years old, and fixing all of its problems on our own falls far beyond the current needs. We need MSBA's help. MSBA can only help school districts that compellingly state the case for need and urgency and are admitted into the MSBA program. Selection is a game changer and may put Medford on a structured path in a several years long process to resolve our high school's woes, perhaps even in time for the graduating class of 2029. The current SOI is Medford's third in the past 5 years. It is normal and common for a district to apply multiple times, making refinements along the way. In 2018, the City Council endorsed the district's SOI priorities, but unfortunately, the MSBA did not select Medford that year. Then again, in 2019, this process repeated the City Council support for SOI priorities, but the outcome was the same. In between then and now, the COVID-19 pandemic began disrupting normal activities starting in 2020. Now in 2022, normal activities are resuming and the acuity of Medford High's need and urgency has grown. As a community, we must act together and act quickly to re-engage on the SOI process. It's the first step. No money is committed and no decisions are made apart from the decision to ask the MSBA for support. That is the real purpose of today's vote. Namely, do each of you agree that Medford High School needs either rehabilitation or renovation? If you do, then please vote yay. Many residents I've spoken with believe it is time, and we all hope you agree. Medford High School's condition has not improved over time. In many ways, the burdens on its old bones have increased, and the urgency with which we must act has never been greater. I thank you for your thoughtful consideration on this matter. Please unanimously endorse the district's SOI priorities today. Best regards, Luke. Anyone else like to speak on the motion of Councilor Carviallo, seconded by forgot the second. Vice President Bears. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears. Yes. Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight is absent. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes. 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, the motion passes. Vice President Bears.
327.
327. And thank you, Dr. Edwardson and Assistant Superintendent Murphy. On the motion of Vice President Bears.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. 22-323 to the Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council regarding the Board of Election Commission appointment. Dear President Morrell and members of the Medford City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body confirm the appointment of Mark Crowley, R. of 59 Boynton Road to the Election Commission for a term to expire March 30th, 2026. Mark will be present for the meeting and a copy of the appointment letter is attached. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Your first class mail to Mr. Mark Crowley. Dear Mr. Crowley, thank you for your interest in serving on a board or commission with the city of Medford. I am pleased to appoint you to a term to the Medford Board of Election Commissioners, which expires on March 30th, 2026. Please take the enclosed appointment letter to the office of the city clerk to be sworn in at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your continued commitment and dedication to the city of Medford. Sincerely, Brenna Longo Kern. Is Mr. Crowley here, or would anyone from the administration like to speak on this? Do not see him. Do I see him? I do not see him on Zoom. Would anyone from the administration like to speak on this paper?
Thank you, President Morrell. If I may just speak generally on the next 4 items that were taken out of order. These are candidates that are put forth before the city council for the city council's consideration. We understand that there's a time sensitivity to this matter relating to establishing an elections commission so that the process can take place in a timely fashion as it relates to items that are upcoming in May, and just procedurally to ensure that we have all of our ducks in a row for planning and outlining the next election process, considering this is new for the city. And so at this point, I don't have any specific comments for any specific candidates, but before the city council are 4 candidates which meet the criteria established by the Mass General Law relating to the breakdown between enrolled parties, and happy to answer any specific questions relating to specific candidates the best I can.
Thank you, Chief of Staff Nazarian. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Manager. I'll speak for Mark Crowley. I know Mark well. He's him and his family. They're good. They're a good family. Mark's wife, I know volunteers time to say, but Mr. Crowley is what you say. He's a good person of good character and good moral fiber, and I think I think he's already on the board now as a player, but I think he would continue to make a good representative of the city. So I would support his motion here.
Motion to approve.
On the motion of Vice President Bears to approve the appointment of Mr. Crowley, second by Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight is absent. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, the motion passes. 22-325 to the Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council regarding the Board of Election Commission appointment. Dear President Morrell and members of the Medford City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body confirm the appointment of Tony Nardella, unenrolled, of 33 Frederick Avenue to the Election Commission for a term to expire March 30th, 2026. Tony will be present for the meeting and a copy of the appointment letter is attached. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, Brianna LaCurrent, Mayor.
Madam President, motion to waive the remainder of the reading.
On the motion of Vice President Bears to waive the reading of the appointment letter, seconded by Councilor Carviallo. Do I have a motion with regards to Mr. Nardella's appointment? Is Mr. Nardella here? I do not see him on Zoom either. Do I have he's not on Zoom either, unless he's under a different name, but I do not see him there.
I would motion to approve.
On the motion of Vice President Barris to approve, seconded by Counselor Carviallo. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
To confirm, Mr. Novello. Vice President Barris.
Yes.
Council Carviallo.
Yes.
Council Collins.
Yes.
Council Knight is absent. Council Scarpelli.
Yes.
Council Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. The motion to appoint Mr. Ardella is approved. And then, so we do have, we just have the appointment letter for Mr. Miller. And so should I just, I know we have a paper number for it. Should I just read the appointment letter?
Yes.
There was a little confusion. We do have a paper number for this, so that is something that we can work on tonight. So 22-327, be a first-class mail to Henry Miller. And dear Mr. Miller, and thank you for your interest in serving on a board or commission with the city of Medford. I am pleased to appoint you to a term to the Medford Board of Election Commissioners, which expires on March 30th, 2026. Please take the enclosed appointment letter to the office of the city clerk to be sworn in at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your continued commitment and dedication to the city of Medford. Sincerely, Brenna Longo Kern, Mayor. I do
Madam
see
President.
Councilor Scarpelli.
I know Mr. Miller's here this evening, but speaking on, for one counselor, he's, anything you see with the name Henry Miller and Associated has to be something that's upright and for the best of our community. He's always been someone that's taken the lead. There've been times that I've gotten phone calls from the gentleman and you didn't like what you heard on the other line, but it was the truth and it made you open your eyes. You wish the city had 1,000 Henry Millerans, and to see that he steps up again to volunteer to be part of one of the most important commissions that we have in our community speaks volumes for the gentleman. So this is a no-brainer to support Mr. Miller and on this commission. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Miller, if you'd like to speak, you don't have to. I do, Councilor Scarpelli, if we had 1,000 Henrys, I'm not sure my phone plan. would handle
Your battery would die.
That's shocking.
This is my first opportunity standing in front of you as the last time you and I was reversed. I was there, you were here. And today I'm there, you're there. But fortunately, through the chair, I'm humble, as you know. I'm a man of word, a man of very responsible. Medford happened to be my native country as an American. I didn't say native city, but I've seen more years in Medford than I did in my native country. For those who knows me, I was humbled by those words from, Councilor Scarpelli, because we've gone a long way. I've seen a lot of faces here growing up in me. But thing is, the responsibility I'm entrusted to, I think I have what it takes to make everybody proud of it, because I'm so ambitious. Everything Medford does that I'm a part of it, I want that to be a model where somebody else, other city and town can come to. And I do appreciate it for the support. I look forward to see what I can deliver. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
On the motion of Councilor Carviallo, seconded by
Second.
Vice President Barris. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Barris.
Yes.
Council Carviallo.
Yes.
Council Collins.
Yes.
Council Knight is absent. Council Scarpelli.
Yes.
Council Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. The appointment is confirmed. Congratulations, Henry. 22-328, to the Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council. Dear President Morrell and members of the Medford City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body confirm the appointment of Joyce Paul, Republican of 8 Mason Street, to the Election Commission for a term to expire March 30th, 2026. Joyce will be present for the meeting, and a copy of the appointment letter is attached. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, Brenna Longo Kern, Mayor. Appointment letter to Joyce Paul.
Motion to waive the reading.
On the motion of Vice President Barris to waive the reading of the appointment letter, seconded by Council Carviallo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Do I have a motion on the floor with regards to this appointment?
Motion to approve.
On the motion of Vice President Barris to approve, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Seconded by Council Carviallo. Correct. Joyce Paul.
Vice President Bears.
No.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
No.
Counselor Knight is absent. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Sang.
No.
President Morrell.
No. 2 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, the motion fails.
Motion to revert to the regular order of business.
Second.
On the motion of Vice President Barris to revert to regular order of business, second by Counselor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion passes. 20-573, offered by Vice President Bears. Be it so ordained by the Medford City Council that the revised ordinances of the city of Medford, as most recently amended, is hereby further amended by changing the language of chapter 74, quote, streets, sidewalks, and other public places, Article 3, sidewalks, section 74-114, entitled Removal of Snow and Ice. Said section presently states, section 74-114, removal of snow and ice. Whenever the sidewalk or any part of a sidewalk adjoining any building or lot of land on any street is encumbered with ice or snow, it shall be the duty of the tenant or occupant, and in case there should be no tenant or occupant of the whole of such building or lot of land, it shall be the duty of the owner or of the person having care of the sidewalk to cause such sidewalk to be made safe and convenient for public use or travel by removing the ice or snow or by covering the area with sand or some other suitable substance. In case such tenant, occupant, owner, or other shall neglect to do so for the space of 6 hours during the daytime, he shall forfeit and pay the sum of $25 for the first offense and $50 for each successive day that the sidewalk shall continue to be encumbered. Any person shall not throw or put or cause to be thrown or put any snow or ice into any street in the city. The fine for violation of this section shall be for the first offense, $50, and for the second offense and subsequent offenses, $100. The language of said section 74-114 shall hereby be amended to read as follows. Section 74-114, removal of snow and ice. A, removal of snow and ice from sidewalks. Whenever snow or ice accumulates on a sidewalk, the owner, tenant, occupant, or agent thereof, any land or building abutting a sidewalk or walking path shall remove the snow and ice to provide a minimum passage of 36 inches for pedestrians on the sidewalk abutting the owner's property and the entrance to a pedestrian crossing abutting the sidewalk. The owner, tenant, occupant, or agent thereof shall also remove snow within 36 inches of a fire hydrant within or abutting the sidewalk that abuts the owner's property sufficient to allow access to the hydrant. The owner, tenant, occupant, or agent shall therefore shall remove the snow or ice or treat the sidewalk with calcium chloride pellets or other suitable and preferably environmentally friendly material to permit safe passage to pedestrians. The owner, tenant, occupant, or agent thereof shall not be responsible for removing snow on an abutting sidewalk if an excessive amount of snow is plowed onto the sidewalk by private, municipal, or state vehicles in the course of plowing a public way, which cannot be reasonably removed as determined at this discretion of the code enforcement officer. The owner, tenant, occupant, or agent thereof shall remove snow and ice within 6 daylight hours after the snow stops falling or a snow emergency has been lifted, whichever is later, and the city may extend the deadline set forth in its discretion. B, throwing or putting snow and ice into the street. A person shall not throw or put or cause to be thrown or put any snow or ice into any street in the city. C, enforcement. The city's code enforcement officer or his designee shall enforce the ordinance in a manner provided in sections 1-13 of the ordinances and Massachusetts General Law of Chapter 40, Section 21D. If non-criminal disposition is elected, then any property owner who violates any provision of this bylaw shall be subject to the following penalties. First offense, $50, second offense, $100, third and subsequent offense, $200, and the cost of removal of snow and ice as determined by the Commissioner of Public Works. Upon third violation during the term of ownership of the property of the duty imposed by the provision of this section, such duty may be performed by the Department of Public Works at the expense of the person liable to perform the same, and the city may place a lien against the property for expenses incurred. The city treasurer, with approval of the mayor, may in civil actions prosecute and adjust claims inuring to the city under the provisions of this section. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Whereas this is an ordinance, I think it's important that it be fully read, so I really appreciate you doing so. We've talked about this a lot. We recently had a committee of the whole on this matter. But essentially, we're modernizing the snow and ice removal ordinance for the city of Medford. We worked with all of the relevant departments, with our DPW, code enforcement, the legal department, as well as many residents, groups such as the Chamber of Commerce, Walk Medford, to really get to both best practices and making sure that the ordinance reflects the practices that the city, thinks will maximize the clearance of snow and ice from our sidewalks, to make sure that there's access for all people throughout the year. So that's where we got to here. The next item on our agenda is a set of policy recommendations, which were outside the scope of the ordinance, but that the subcommittee, felt was important that we send to the mayor and the relevant city departments. So that will be the next item. But I just want to thank Councillor Marks, Councillor Falco, Councillor Caraviallo, Councillor Singh, Councillor Scarpelli, who have all been on this subcommittee at some point in the past 3 years as we move this forward, as well as all the other folks that I mentioned, everyone who came to our meetings, Commissioner Moki and our code enforcement staff, Commissioner Kerins and Commissioner McGivern at DPW, as well as staff over there, Solicitor Scanlon, who's guided us through this process as well. We did receive a letter today from Stephen Pompeo, who I think was not able to make the committee of the whole, but did have a couple of suggestions. I'd like to propose that we accept a couple of those. So I do have two small amendments to make here. In the last paragraph of the new section A, instead of 6 daylight hours, change the word 6 to the word 8. So 8 daylight hours. That came up as essentially the idea is to make sure that if snow stops falling and someone's gone to work, that they can get home and have enough time to clear it. And then the second change is in the second to last paragraph of section C, which would be currently reads upon third violation during the term of ownership of the property. I would just propose the amendment that we change the term of the ownership of the property to the phrase a 5-year period, so that people do have some sort of respite. If you own a property for 70 years and you violated this 3 times, I think you should have a second chance. So those would be the 2 amendments. I have forwarded that language to the city clerk as well for his records, but those are my proposed amendments.
I would second this.
Thank you.
Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank everybody for the work they put in this. But here we are. Here's another ordinance that we can't enforce. I mean, from the day I got elected in this council 11 years ago, one of my biggest peeves was code enforcement officers. I begged for one we only had one. We got one, like maybe I think 4 years later, and then the person. So now we're down to 1.5 persons in the code enforcement office. I mean, Dennis McDonald's a good guy. He's one person. How much can we ask this guy to do? I mean, I call him for all the time, and there's so many other glaring needs for code enforcement, not just this, but many other things that I feel are real important to me. That one person or 1.5 persons just can't do. So, it's a good proposal here, and I support it, but who enforces this? The police aren't going to go out and enforce it. And I say, Dennis is one guy, and he's going to help it, but the code enforcement office has to be stepped up and say, and not just to enforce this ordinance, but there's multiple other ordinances that are flagrantly violated in the city, and they say we just don't have the ability to enforce them. So I'll support this, but I would hope in the budget that there's at least another full-time officer to help support these ordinances that we keep on passing. So I'd like to amend the paper that at budget time that we have at least a second full-time enforcement officer.
Would you like to add it as a B paper? I think they meant it would be.
If you want to put that as a B paper, that's fine.
Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. And Councilor Carviallo, I completely agree with you. I think so much of what we can do to improve the conditions around the city are around our civil code. I do want to say that specifically as pertains to this, One of the recommendations, we added that the code enforcement office could choose their designee. And we worked with them on the enforcement side of this very specifically to do the best practices that they felt were being effective. Obviously, we need a lot more capacity in that office. I totally agree with that. One thing that we were able to get to is that potential, and I think the DPW and the building department have agreed to this together, at least they did in our meeting, that DPW would be able to be designees as per this ordinance, so that when they're out plowing, if they see someone pushing stuff right back out into the street, they can go right after that. So it's not a solution to the question
No,
you asked. I
and,
completely agree, but it is.
But again, like you said, our curb appeal in the city is horrible.
Yeah.
And that's because we don't have the people to enforce at least the flagrant violations.
Right. And I completely agree. I think we think so much of what people bring to the city when it comes to needs is around the civil code and the distribution of the people who can actually are out there enforcing that is off balance. So thank you.
Any further discussion from the council? Name and address for the record, please.
Unfair at all. Now I'm up there, I've made a few blunders on the side, broken sidewalks here, broken kneecaps, the whole deal, but my problem is, it's a great thing you're trying to do, but what about the seniors? What about the people over 50? They can't do it. It's an impossibility. And the other problem is that it's almost impossible to do a good plowing job, not because they don't do a good job. There's too many cars. And I don't care if you say, oh, park over here or park over there, there's too many cars. So as a result, driveways get blocked in. People can't get people to come and shovel. I mean, it's really disgusting out there. And I've seen some of these, I think we have 1 or 2 bombardiers. Here, these are little ones. They look like little riding tractors. And they have the V and they take it off the sidewalks. But there's a guy up in Princeton Street, Frank Troiani. They've had a tree stump there that's as big as this area here. It's on a sidewalk. He's 92 years old. He's legally blind. And I mean, these are things that need to be taken care of. I don't know. When I was a kid, they used to, we had a snowstorm. We used to go down to the MBTA down in Charlestown. They used to hire you for the night to clear all the stations, the steps and everything. And I know that there's kids out there that want to do this, but you got how many houses in the city and how many people can you put out there? I mean, even the National Guard couldn't do it on a night. So I wish you would take consideration of the people that are up there in age, like myself. I don't want to do it anymore. But I see some of these people, they become shut-ins because they can't get out. And then when they can get out, they have to be careful because, you shovel, you melt it, at the end of the day, it becomes ice again. So it's a never-ending battle. But I think there's got to be a better way to help the people in the city of Medford keep the sidewalks clear. So that's all I got to say right now.
Thank you, Mr. Antonio. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Being the same generation of Mr. D'Antonio, I remember when the city used to hire the kids when it snowed, and they paid you, and they took you around and you shoveled. You shoveled the hydrants, you shoveled the things. And again, maybe that's a plan we can look to going forward. When there's a snow emergency, the kids that want to work, we pay them a wage, and maybe put them on we have a couple of small buses, and just drive around and do all parts of the city like they used to do in the past. And I know we don't have the equipment, but maybe that's a plan that we could look forward to for the high school kids, for them, to make a couple of dollars and to alleviate the snow plan. Listen, I do my yard and I do multiple other yards, but there are people that are in their 50s that just can't do it. They with the medical conditions and on, and then I get the word from all the people. Well, why don't you hire a kid? Well, I tell people, where do you live? They want to hire a kid. There are no kids. I say kids don't go out and do that anymore. But maybe if the high school develops a program with the DPW, when there's a snow emergency, for the kids to report down the DPW yard, and they'll take them out there, let them shovel, go out and shovel. It worked in the past. I don't know why it can't work again.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Councilor Singh.
I totally agree with everything that's been said. I think it'd be valuable for us to look at such a program again. I also wanted to tell our residents that our city, I think when we have a snowstorm, they usually do put out a list of 10-ish names and phone numbers that people can call. Obviously, they're going to be flooded with requests. But I think it could be a good idea to expand such a program to make it prominent on our website. I think we also here have a question of mismatch. I think we have people who are willing to shovel for others, willing to be paid if the city's willing to pay them, and then people who need help shoveling their backyards and their sidewalks. And I think if we prioritize, this is something I mentioned during the council priorities meeting, but if we prioritize something like revamping the city website, I think this is something that we want to be looking at, is making sure that, our city plays a more proactive role in matching service providers and people who need those services in the city.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. D'Antonio. Thank you, Councilor Carviallo, Councilor Singh. And the next paper, which I'll go over, does go through some, what we just discussed was the ordinance within our authority. The next paper is a number of recommendations that we're making to the city regarding snow removal, that we don't control DPW, we don't control the list of programs that Councilor Carviallo suggested, but we do recommend a priority sidewalk program, bring more bombardiers in, clear more sidewalks, more community engagement, expansion of a paid shoveler program, that request that the mayor create some exemptions for certain persons, people with disabilities or elderly residents. So a number of those questions are things that we have discussed extensively in subcommittee and that we are really pushing the administration to take under serious consideration.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Any further discussion from the council? I do see Martha Andrus on Zoom. Martha, name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm Martha Andrus. I live at 45 Kilgore Avenue in Medford. And I want to speak in favor of this ordinance. I want to thank the Councilor Bears and the other councilors who worked very hard on this and touched base with all of the city departments that would bear the responsibility for making it work. I think that we waited a long time. I heard mention of the elderly. I have seen people who try to walk from their apartment to CVS to buy food in West Medford, and climbing over snowbanks, people with walkers, people with canes, because somebody decided not to shovel after the storm. And I think if you think about the elderly and the disabled, having sidewalks that we can walk on after a storm, 8 hours after a storm, is not an unreasonable thing to ask. In fact, it's a right. And I do want to point out that I was very pleased to see that not only is there the ordinance, but there are some recommendations to the city about stepping up the community assistance program for shoveling for elderly and disabled homeowners. And that there's a proposal to provide an exemption for people who, because of their physical condition, cannot shovel, and because of their income level, cannot afford to pay for shoveling. These are all good things, and I think they'll make our city better in very meaningful ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Any further discussion? We will take the B paper from Councilor Carviallo first. So the B paper is to request the administration allocate more funding for additional code enforcement officers. So on the motion of Councilor Carviallo for the B paper, seconded by Councilor Collins. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? B paper passes. On the main paper, on the motion of Vice President Bears, seconded by motion of Vice President Bears to approve for first reading as amended, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
For first reading as amended, Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Councilor Carviallo. Yes. Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight is absent. Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Councilor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, the motion passes. 22-319, offered by Vice President Bears, Counselor Scarpelli, and Counselor Singh. Medford City Council, Public Works and Utilities Subcommittee, Chair Vice President Bears, members Counselor Scarpelli and Counselor Singh. Recommendations to the city administration regarding snow removal.
Madam President, motion to waive the reading for a summary by the
On
chair.
the motion of Vice President Bears to waive the reading for a summary by the chair, second by
Second.
Counselor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. As I said, these are the recommendations, policy recommendations to the city administration regarding snow removal. First one is on plowing and snow removal practices, recommending an improvement to plowing practices to avoid the dumping of snow and ice on sidewalks and corner crosswalks. Second is discretion for the code enforcement officer. A lot of this does fall under administrative discretion. The third one is basically that it's essential that even if there's discretion, sidewalks do need to be cleared. So recommending a creation of a policy to ensure that a sidewalk, corner, or crosswalk that's encumbered by snow or ice due to plowing or snow moving is promptly cleared as quickly as possible. Second recommendation is on a priority sidewalk snow removal program. We had extensive discussions in 2020 and 2021 on this, including the creation of a list of priority streets that could be cleared. We believe that this would really be incredibly helpful for connectivity. We do know that cost is a barrier, but we think that given the city's snow and ice account, that this should be a serious priority for the administration to implement a priority sidewalk snow removal program. The third recommendation is on community engagement. First, recommending clear and consistent snow removal information be distributed using all communications tools available to the city. Second, single municipal point person or tool, for example, code enforcement or SeeClickFix. I do know that code enforcement is now using SeeClickFix as kind of a database, but where residents can make reports or request assistance. The administration has expanded some efforts regarding the volunteer and paid shovelers, but I think as Councilor Caraviallo noted, that could be significantly expanded, and we request that. Fourth is regarding exemptions, noting that some communities have created exemption lists for certain people. We suggest that the administration explore this policy, and also that if they were to implement exemptions, that they have a policy to make sure that those sidewalks are still able to be cleared, whether that be what Councilor Caraviallo was discussing or something else. And finally, enforcement coordination between DPW and code enforcement. We did have a discussion on March 23rd, 2022. That coordination is essential to making sure that if snow is being pushed back out into the street after a street has been cleared, that the DPW can take a look at that. The building commissioner and DPW commissioner discussed making members of the DPW designees for the purposes of enforcement of the snow removal ordinance, and we support these coordination efforts. And I would move to approve this item and send it to the city administration.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Any further discussion from the council? Any discussion from members of the public? On the motion of Vice President Bears to approve the recommendations and send to the administration, seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. 22-320, offered by Counselor Collins. Be it so resolved by the Medford City Council that the Subcommittee on Zoning, Planning, and Development meet with the Economic Development Director, City Solicitor, and other relevant city staff to discuss current ordinances and licensing rules that regulate the conditions under which restaurants, bars, and other establishments may open in Medford squares and business districts. Be it further resolved that this discussion be used to explore potential amendments to ordinances and licensing rules that would allow more nightlife, recreation, and dining options to flourish in our city. Councilor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. So pretty self-explanatory. This resolution is just meant to, begin an investigation in subcommittee, with working with members of our business community, with the Director of Economic Development to investigate the work that the city and the city council can do to accelerate the growth of our downtowns, our many squares, our business districts. As I think everybody would agree, we have some incredible options for dining, for recreation, for nightlife throughout Medford Square, South Medford Square, West Medford. But at the same time, one of the things that I hear repeatedly from constituents is, how can we take better advantage of our downtowns? How can we take better advantage of Medford Square? How can we make it so Medford Square is really more of a destination for people within our community and also for people from outside of our community? I think people would like to see more and different options and really build upon the wonderful base of businesses that we do have in many of our business districts. So there's a lot to do in the project of transforming our business districts into, even more vibrant and bustling squares. Obviously, that takes into account transportation, it takes into account cycling and pedestrian access, parking, a whole host of issues. This resolution is not meant to get into all of those, but rather just to begin a conversation with the Director of Economic Development, with our business community, about what changes this body could potentially investigate, consider, potentially act on to make it easier for new establishments to start and to thrive in Medford.
Thank you, Counselor Collins. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Council Collinswood. The answer is very simple. It's called people. Businesses come where there's people. We don't have enough people here to draw more businesses in. Again, it's called density. There's a reason Somerville and Cambridge have hundreds and hundreds of restaurants, because there's people there and businesses want to come where there's people. I've been on so many meetings with the city and over the years, and again, we're not growing. That's how you get business here. You have to increase your population. You got to bring people there. Got to allow development for more people to move into the squares, not just Medford Square, but all the areas. Sit down with the business owners and say, listen, would you like to put a couple of more floors onto your building? Urban living is the way to go now. But again, we've got apartment buildings that we're fighting that would bring a couple of thousand people here, but that's what businesses want. They want to come where there's people, and we're not doing anything to bring people here to bring the business. It's to say, and that's the very simple answer to this. And again, it's something I've been preaching for many years here, and that's the really answer.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Any further discussion from the council? Any members of the public? On the motion of Counselor Collins to send this to the subcommittee on
Second.
zoning, planning, and development, seconded by Counselor Carviallo. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion passes. 22-321, offered by Counselor Collins. Be it so resolved by the Medford City Council that the subcommittee on housing meet to discuss a proposed condo conversion ordinance so as to improve stability for tenants in the event of large rental apartment buildings being sold as condominiums. Be it further resolved that the subcommittee invite the city solicitor and staff from the Office of Planning, Development, and Sustainability to join this discussion. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. So over the past few weeks, we've had discussions in these chambers about how the housing market is playing out in Medford, ways that is displacing residents of Medford, and what the city can do to better protect its residents and specifically tenants. And the need to target specific protections at buildings that are held by commercial corporate landlords. So the ordinance that I'm hoping that we can have the chance to discuss in subcommittee would be targeted at codifying protections specifically for tenants of large commercially owned apartment buildings in the event that they're converted into condominiums. That is the gist of a condo conversion ordinance, which exists in many communities throughout the state. For example, everywhere from Amherst to Brookline, Malden, Marlboro, Somerville has one. Salem is working on one right now. These exist in places where, there's an imperative to make sure that in the event of a large building being converted from a rental into a condo, that the people that are living there just have appropriate, reasonable protections for having a safe and stable off-ramp from that living situation into their next one. So like many of the housing measures, like many of the tenant protection measures that we've discussed in this council, this is the type of thing that can be tailored to suit this community, can be tailored to suit the needs of our city. And I'm really looking forward to beginning that conversation in subcommittee with some of the very knowledgeable housing staff that we are lucky to have here in Medford. So I humbly ask for my fellow councilors' support in beginning to consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Collins. Any further discussion from the council?
Motion approved.
members of the public on the motion of Vice President Bears, seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. 22-322, offered by Vice President Bears, Rules of the City Council, Medford, Massachusetts. Last update, April 19th, 2022. Vice President Bears.
Madam President, motion to waive the reading for a summary.
I need people to tag in. On the motion of Vice President Bears to waive the reading in favor of a summary, second by Counselor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. This is an item that we worked on for several months at this point, coming out of the Ordinances and Rules Subcommittee. This basically, I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. Obviously, it's essentially a review of the existing council rules, the creation of a table of contents and pursuant sections of the rules. And I'll just say this off the top. These are the consensus items that we all agreed on in committee of the whole. We have separated out a discussion of the city council's meetings for further review, so that will happen in the future. This vote and this change will not affect the current meeting schedule of the city council. What it does do, as I said, first, it adds a table of contents to the council rules, which had not existed previously. There are a number of technical language change and updates. Previously, this set of the council rules, had different names for councilors versus members. So just making sure that all of that is consistent. And, a number of other just updates and kind of bringing the language into modern readable times. Some of it was a little archaic and arcane, maybe pulled directly from Robert's rules or from some other parliamentary procedures, and it's kind of hard to understand or parse. Third major thing is streamlines the order of business. It takes a lot of the items that we all have consensus on, congratulations, condolences, announcements, informational items, and kind of puts them in a single section for us to take a look at up front. Fourth is there actually was no council rule or anything discussing public participation. It was one sentence and another rule. This creates a council rule on public participation. Organizing that, making it clear what people, exactly the rules are. But I think, as we all discussed, maintaining the intent of this council that the public can come and speak to us on any issue that they wish to speak to us on. Number 5 is that it changes the public hearing process. As people who've been before this council know, we asked members of the public to tell us whether they support or oppose a project before we'd explain the project. So this would change that process and make that more clear. 6th major change is just requesting additional information and time for considerations of papers that are put before us by the mayor, particularly on financial matters, as well as requesting, a written report of, a written version of whatever updates or requests we're getting from the council, in addition to maybe a verbal presentation. And then 7th, there's, I think the last major change is just that the president would review the agenda with the clerk prior to the posting of the agenda. If there's anything I missed, I'd certainly be happy to hear from my fellow councilors.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Counselor Scarpelli.
No, thank you, Council President. Thank you, Council Vice President Bears. You summarized that in depth and appreciate it. I know that, again, just to reiterate, unlike what has happened on the school committee side, that the word that keeps coming back out there is that we're changing the rules to stifle our constituents. That's not the case. Reiterate what Council Bears said. This will always have a forum here in this chambers for this council that any resident of the city can come to that podium and speak on any issue that they think is prudent or they need that to get off their chest. I think that was important. The policy is still in place where it's not debatable, but there's a process where if a community member does want something on the agenda to speak and discuss on that agenda, we can do that. So this is definitely a venue that is still for the people and have options for the people to speak. So other than that, to reiterate, the other piece that was out there that has some debate is the amount of meetings per month. I know that there is some debate, whether it's 2 meetings or bi-weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings or weekly meetings. I still think, and that's still on the agenda. So other than that, I see everything is in place and I would move for approval.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Any further discussion from the council? Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, like Council Scott, I say, I'm in favor of most of the stuff on there. A lot of it did debate, but I do feel that the changing from weekly to bi-weekly is something I'm not in favor of at all. I think all it does is it makes the meetings longer and it makes people wait. So now at 10:30, we're sitting here discussing it, and people have been waiting all night, say, I can't wait up anymore. I think this is just something to stifle the people from coming here. I feel that we should keep the meetings the way they've been. Again, I know we said, well, we need an extra one, we'll have an extra one. All that does is it's going to cause confusion. I mean, it's everything else, but I just don't agree with changing from the system we have from that's worked forever. And this is what the people are comfortable with to a bi-weekly meeting. So other than that, I support just about everything else on this agenda, on this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Any further discussion from the council?
If I may.
Vice President Bears.
I just wanted to, so tonight we wouldn't change the meetings. So I just want to make that clear for everybody. This vote tonight, we're talking about the meetings in the future committee of the whole. Those changes are not included in what we're updating tonight. So certainly willing to have that further debate. And I know that there's, I think a lot of options that we could potentially entertain, but tonight's vote would not change the meeting schedule.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. And barring any unforeseen circumstances, the next committee of the whole on that would be next Tuesday at 6 p.m. where we'll discuss those, the few contested items that are left. Any further discussion from the council or members of the public? Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. John Petrella, 61 Locust Street, Medford, Mass. I just want to quickly reiterate what Councilor Carviallo said. I know we're not voting on it tonight, but change can be good, but I don't see a reason. And this is the way it's always been. And I agree with him. Anything that has to do with stifling the public is just not a good thing. So I would hope when the time comes to vote for that, you think about the people that put you here. That's all. The other thing I just want to, and this is only, it's just me. Rule 16 on the public participation. Basically because of what's going on with the school committee, it's very disheartening how they're shutting us down. I mean, completely shutting us down. It's just not right. So I know this is the rule. I know nothing was changed. It's always been this way, but the rule is all petitions filed by members of the public shall either be sponsored by a member or reviewed by the city clerk and council president prior to placement on the public participation section of the agenda. So that's going to stay? Is that the way, that's exactly how it's going to stay? Okay, no. Yeah, as you guys know, we come up to City Hall and we just fill out a little form, drop it off, we're on our way, and you guys always have always forever allowed us to speak. I just want to make sure it stays that way.
Yeah, it is. I
All
mean,
right,
the
that's
intention
all.
for
I
that is,
appreciate it.
it's keeping it germane to the powers
Yeah,
of the
no,
city
you guys
council.
have been very good. We're not.
For sure, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not meant to limit, it's
just as
things
long as
like
we have the public
personnel, things we can't
participation.
speak.
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you. On the motion of Vice President Bears, seconded by Councillor Singh. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears. Yeah. Councilor Carviallo.
Yes.
Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight is absent. Councilor Scarpelli. Yes. Councilor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, the motion passes. 22-325 offered by President Morrell. Unless counselors disagree, I can just read from the chair. Thank you. Whereas personal use of drones / unmanned aircraft is increasingly popular, and whereas the use of personal drones in a densely populated city like Medford can impact quality of life and one's reasonable expectation of privacy, be it so resolved that the city council requests that the city solicitor provide draft language for an ordinance regulating the personal use of drones / unmanned aircraft systems in Medford. This came about, a few residents had reached out concerned they've had some experiences with drones hovering over their property. There are some regulations at the state level, but increasingly cities are taking this on just to make it clear what, boundaries around personal property and using drones like that over others' private property. I do understand Councilor Carviallo's previous point about code enforcement regarding this, and this, this will be even trickier. But I would like to just see a draft, see what we can do, so we at least have some regulations we can point to. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. This was something that was brought up before you were on the council, when drones first came out, because we had gotten a few complaints from people that drones were hanging on people's windows and stuff like that. And I think Councilor Knight would know, but I think we had sent something to the solicitor to draft up some type of ordinance for this in the past. You may want to check with the solicitor's office. There may be something that had been there for an older paper, but I do remember this had come up before when the drones were first coming out, and they were a part of the. I support this, but there may be something that might have been already in place that's there now.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Any further discussion?
Motion approval.
On the motion of Councilor Carviallo, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor? All those opposed, the motion passes. Communications from the mayor, 22-317 to President Nicole Morrell and honorable members of the Medford City Council from Mayor Brianna Longo-Kern regarding loan order sidewalk bonds. Dear Madam President and City Councilors, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approve the following loan order. City of Medford loan order sidewalk bonds. Be it ordered that the sum of $1 million be and hereby is appropriated to pay the cost of constructing and reconstructing sidewalks throughout the city, including all costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the city treasurer, with approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said sum under and pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), as amended and supplemented, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city therefore. And further ordered that the city treasurer is authorized to file an application with the appropriate officials of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, here and after the Commonwealth, to qualify under Chapter 44A of the general laws, any and all bonds or notes of the city authorized by the vote or pursuant to any prior vote of the city, and in such connection therewith to provide such information and execute documents as such officials of the Commonwealth may require. Very truly yours, Mayor Brianna Longo-Kern. And then this is all, is this the same paper number? Okay, so continuing. To President Nicole Morrell and members of the Honorable Medford City Council regarding paper 22-317 loan order opinion sidewalk bonds. Dear Madam President and members of the Medford City Council, in accordance with the provisions of the Medford City Council Rule 22, I have examined the above captioned loan order as to its legality and hereby submit my findings. I certify that the loan order set forth in Council Paper 22-317, in which authorization is sought to borrow $1 million for the purpose of paying the cost of constructing and reconstructing various sidewalks throughout the city, including all costs incidental and related thereto, and to issue bonds or notes of the city in said aggregate principal amount under and pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, is valid. I'm of the opinion that there is a lawful authority for the issuance of said bonds under the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts presently in force. I further certify that the purposes for which these bonds are to be issued, i.e. to pay for the cost of constructing and reconstructing sidewalks throughout the city and to issue bonds or notes of the city in said aggregate principal amount of $1 million under and pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, is valid under the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts presently in force. Respectfully, Kimberly M. Scanlon. And there are 2 footnotes regarding Rule 22. The current rule ordinances and bond orders refer to the city solicitor. Every ordinance and every order for bond issue shall, before its passage, be referred to the city solicitor, who shall forthwith examine the same as to its legality and notify the council in writing of his or her findings. And the second footnote around general laws, chapter 44, section 7.1, authorizes cities to borrow for landscaping, alteration, remediation, rehabilitation, or improvement of public land, the construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, improvement, alteration, remodeling, enlargement, demolition, removal, or extraordinary repair of public buildings, facilities, assets, works, or infrastructure for a period not to exceed 30 years. I do see the chief of staff with us, but Vice President Barris, if you have a question?
Yes, just on this, do we have an estimate of how many sidewalks may be repaired or how many projects may be funded with this? And also, just what the terms of the bonds are going to be? Are they going to be 30 years or something else?
President Morrell, through you, Vice President Bears, as far as the question pertaining to which sidewalks, how many sidewalks, admittedly, I've done a lot of preparation for tonight's meeting, but I did not look at that material information. Frankly, I know that there is a draft contract prepared and would be happy to share the extent of the draft contract that exists. I know procurement has been working with the engineering department and DPW on that for quite a bit of some time. And as far as the question pertaining to the length of the borrowing or the note, that is one that I've spent a bit of time on. It's at this point in time, it's too early to answer the question. And the reason for that is because it may be advantageous to the city to go out for a note, which is a short-term borrowing, rather than going out for a long-term borrowing. And also, of course, we're keeping a close eye on what's happening with interest rates with the Fed. They have a number of meetings coming up. As far as projections can identify at this point in time, everything is expected to go up, as I'm sure you've all heard. And so we're mindful of those issues. We're mindful of timing in terms of the length of the bond, which was your specific question, Vice President Bears. And that also needs to be looked at from the standpoint of practicality. There's the maximum extent allowable by law, but the practicality of it too, right? The life of the actual infrastructure itself. So all of these questions are ones that would be answered once we're at the point where we're prepared to borrow. Because if it were to be a note, then we would do it obviously for a much shorter period of time. Notes can be only completed for a maximum of a year. And so the best case plan, which hopefully includes the city council's approval of the first reading this evening, would be that once the loan order is fully secured, we're able to have those kinds of strategy conversations with the city's financial advisor, which is Hilltop Securities, and work with the city's bond counsel to ensure that we're using the best strategy with the information that's available to us at that very time, because it is a very fluctuating and changing market as it stands.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Nina, for being here tonight. I'm gonna be consistent with my vote with this process. I think that when Madam Mayor was part of this committee, we both agreed and looked at the process of bonding every year, $250, now $1 million for something that I actively at the time, years ago, went out and secured a financial breakdown of a truck, 3 employees, what it would cost to have a full 3 more DPW employees, as other communities have, a sidewalk and hot top crew that work for you year round. And I believe at that time was $250,000. And that was a one-time cost. Then all that was left was the payment of the 3 employees for the year. And I kept bringing up the same piece. If we're going to figure out a way to spend $250,000 and only getting a few sidewalks done, or having no crew for doing hot patch or hot top pothole remediation, that we look into at budget season. I put forth the recommendation every year that we input a hot top and sidewalk crew for this reason. And so I'll reiterate this. I know it needs to be done. I won't support it because I've historically said over and over again, the redundancy of this ask could be gone, and we could be now looking at a crew of 3 extra employees in the city that could then assist other departments when needed. There are so many benefits to adding a sidewalk hot top crew that I just think that this is fundamentally fiscally wrong, coming up and asking for bonds every year for 250, 500,000. This year's $1 million. So I can't support it. And that's the only reason why I think that it's the studies that we brought forth, the numbers we brought forth in the past shows that this doesn't have to be a bonded item. It doesn't have to be a loan. This could be a department in our city that would help us throughout the year and fulfilling the need of our community as we go. So just wanted to make sure that you knew it wasn't nothing personal. This is something that I've been preaching for since I came on this council years ago, that it's, I did my due diligence. I did my homework. I had a few local DPW commissioners put plans forth that I submitted to the council at the time and the mayors at the time. And I just think this is, again, it's another year that I'll be saying this, $1 million. I know it doesn't come from the same pool, but $1 million spent, $250,000 spent one way would save us $1 million discussion today. So I just think it's a redundancy that we don't need anymore in this community with this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. And Council Scarpelli is 100% right. Something I supported before Council Scarpelli got on the council. Again, I don't know how many times I voted for 250,000, $500,000. And again, do we ever get our value? I mean, do we ever get the money, enough sidewalks done out of the money that we spent? Is there money left in any of the accounts that we've appropriated in the past that has leftover money for sidewalks that didn't get done? And it isn't just this administration. It's been the administration before that, the administration before that. So this is not nothing against you, but it's just something that just keeps rolling every year. Every year we keep voting for this, and somewhere along the line you have to say no. And again, for small capital investments, we have these people forever. Sidewalks are a job that is never ever going to stop. You could have a whole department of 6 people doing that, and they'll have enough sidewalks to keep them going all year round. And then when they come out of season, you have them to do other stuff. Again, I have a hard time supporting this again. I've supported it, many times in the past, but at somewhere along the line, we have to say stop and let's do it right. I mean, all we seem to be doing is that we just keep piecemealing everything. Let's do it and do it right.
Thank you,
President
Councilor
Morrell,
Carviallo.
if I may, I'm sure that there's a lot of history to this, and I'm sure it would be beneficial for me to speak with you, Councilor Scarpelli, and with you, Councilor Carviallo, offline. But just to make sure that I'm not leaving anything off the discussion table, to make sure that we're discussing the same thing. And I don't think your point is lost on me, Councilor Scarpelli, but without having done that analysis you mentioned myself, what's before the city council tonight is capital improvements. Capital improvements for city sidewalks, as well as sidewalks to be built where sidewalks may not exist. What I believe, Councilor Scarpelli, you're referring to is crews to maintain those items. But you're shaking your head no, so I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to make sure that I was presenting this in a way that was clear about what was being asked.
Again, I think the presentation, you're right on. I understand that we need it. And again, the other reason why I would not support it is historically, I've done the homework. We've mentioned this both as former councilors and former, like Councilor Carviallo says, this isn't just this administration. It's been every administration before that we've sat and talked about this, and we keep bonding so much money. And then the question comes back at the end of the year. We sit with the DPW director. We say, what did we get done? Well, unfortunately, the contractors couldn't do this or couldn't do that. And then unfortunately, it came into the season when we couldn't pour cement anymore. And then we lose our window because we hold everything out for outside agencies, where if we have our own department, 3-person department with our own equipment, as soon as the weather breaks and as soon as the cement can cure, in other communities, boom, they're out there and they're working. They're putting sidewalks in, they're replacing sidewalks. And then when cement can't be cured, now it breaks right into the winter season and potholes have to be filled. Those crews that were doing cement sidewalks, they're now filling potholes all over their cities, making sure that that's kept up. So again, I understand you don't know the history of it, and that's something maybe I should touch base with you earlier. So, but I think this is something that I've said over and over again for years, that this is something that we really need a dedicated crew. And if I supported this tonight, that would come on budget season and say, well, why would we need to look into hiring our own crews if we're going to accept the $1 million bonds every time it comes forth? So that's why I have to stay away from this and not support it. So that's the only reason why. It's because it's something that I feel strongly about for many years, not just today, but in many different administrations. I mean, it goes all the way back to the McGlynn era. So it's not that expensive. And if we could do a cost analysis, I know it's a little bit more than it was back in the day, but it was one truck and the equipment that was needed. And, you know, the only reoccurring cost is the 3 staff members that could definitely be used in different sections in our DPW when needed. So when we weren't in season for sidewalks. So again, thank you for understanding it.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you. You mentioned some of that I'm not seeing in here. Maybe I didn't see it, but you talked about putting sidewalks where there are none.
Yeah, and
If you think you're going to do that with $1 million, you're not going to get very far at all, because when you put in a brand new sidewalk, you also have to put in storage and curbing. So $1 million is going nowhere on that front. I mean, if that's in there, I don't know if I can support that part. But again, this is something that should have been brought to us months ago, because now we're into the end of April. We haven't approved this yet. We haven't even got the bond. Cities are, the concrete companies are already booked up. This has happened in the past. We waited too long. And now before you know it, the concrete companies are starting in September. So they only get 2 months to work. Concrete guys should have been out there now. This is something that should have been brought to us 4 or 5 months ago to vote on, not now. Again, as usual, we're just late into the game with this. I don't know, but I say, but putting sidewalks where there aren't none is $1 million isn't going to go anywhere, because and again, you want to do that so we get more Chapter 90 money, but that also includes, putting in sewer work, and sewer work costs a lot more money too. And I say $1 million isn't going anywhere. So again, I'm with Councilor Scarpelli on this. I think it's about time that we stop. Do it the right way. Stop pushing this down the road. Every year we keep voting $1 million, $500,000, and we're getting no bang for our buck anymore.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo.
President
Bears. Did you? want to talk?
The only thing I wanted to clarify is that I believe it would be fair for more appropriate for me to say that this would provide ADA accessibility where there are no ramps.
Right.
In fairness, because I think your point is valid, but I was trying to pull up the contract and also listen to the comments of the counselors so I can try to potentially answer the original question that Counselor Scarpelli had with regard to locations. And I'll try to do that right now as I continue to listen.
But again, this doesn't go back to you. This has been an ongoing program for the past administrations in the past. So it's not saying that this is germane, but all we keep doing is just throwing every year. It's more money. And I don't see I don't see enough sidewalks getting done.
Thank you. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wondering if any of these funds are going to be used in concert with other funding, or is it, is this, basically we're taking out this loan order for these sidewalks. For example, may that occur concurrently with the street repair funded with Chapter 90 funds, or is it all just kind of separated out?
My guess, and it would purely be a guess without having spoken with the DPW commissioner, would be that it would be, maximized with all funding available sources. But that's because I know the way that they work, and I know that their strategy is focused on always maximizing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Barris. Any further discussion from the council as we with the answers from Chief of Staff Nazarian? Any members of the public would like to? Councilor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. And Chief of Staff Nazarian, thank you for being here and thank you for discussing this with us. I'm wondering to Vice President Beers' first question, this question I also had, sort of the estimate of how big of an impact this loan could make in terms of number of streets, number of sidewalks, number of areas of ADA compliance where there previously wasn't compliance. I'm curious if you think that's the type of thing that we could find an answer to in the next couple of weeks. I know for myself, that's something that it feels like an important detail. And I understand there's a lot of details to parse through. And
Councilor Collins, if you could just lean, the HVAC is kicked on. If you could just lean in a little bit more.
certainly, thank you. Sorry about that. Now I hear myself echoing. I was wondering to the question of, what the impact of a load of this size would have in terms of sidewalks repaired, new areas of ADA compliance where there previously wasn't, if you thought that was the type of detail that we could have an answer to within a week or two, or if you think that's part of the further down the line type of answer.
President Morrell, through you, yes, I do believe that information should be available at this point. There should be already a plan that exists within the engineering division or within the DPW or both, where that information would be able to be secured and provided to the city council. So one proposal would be to potentially hold this, to table this item and bring it up at the next city council meeting and further discuss it. The reason I would propose that, considering the comments and questions that remain open, is because of the timing, the very timing that's been discussed tonight, and that is to ensure that we could probably, my understanding in reviewing the process by the city council, that relates to, the city council rules, that relates to, obviously, the statute, relates to required advertisement periods. This process will take roughly 6 to 8 weeks to complete, to get the loan order fully approved, which puts us into early June at this point. And the goal was to have concurrent sidewalk contract being bid at the same time as we were working on securing the loan order, so that we would have something ready and good to go for June, so that work could begin. So my proposal would be, in fact, if there isn't, if it doesn't appear, and it certainly doesn't appear to me at this point in time, but I defer to the council, that this has any legs, so to speak, at this point in time, then perhaps the next best appropriate action would be for me to collect some further information and come back to the city council at your next meeting.
Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. On top of doing this, we're also subject to the shoddy work of these subcontractors. I mean, we don't have a clerk of the works to stay on top of them. I would do, again, we're short-staffed in the DPO, so they came on to, I'm going to give you a perfect example of shoddy work on the sidewalk. Is go out right in front of this building and go down the end of the ramp. I don't think that sidewalk is 3 years old, 4 years old. It's all crumbled up. And that's right in front of City Hall, never mind in front of somebody's house. When you leave the building tonight, just walk down the ramp and look at the sidewalk in front of the building. Less than 4 years, it's all crumbled up, brand new sidewalk. And again, that's what, when you hire contractors late into the season, you're going to get third-rate contractors. Because like I say, this is something that should have been brought to us months ago. So like you said, it takes 8 weeks. Could have hired these people in February. Can't hire them now. I'll say all the good contractors are going to be gone. And as we always do, we always get the second and third rate people to do the work, and they do shoddy work.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Vice President Barris.
Thank you, Madam President. Given the way the process works, I personally would not be opposed to approving this for a first reading tonight. We would not end up in final approval as noted for several weeks. That would allow us to get the shot clock moving on the process, while still being able to discuss the further questions and concerns of the council. That would just be my suggestion here. But certainly willing to hear what other councilors think.
Would you like that in the form of a motion, or it's a suggestion at this point? Counselor Collins, then Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, President Morrell. And I think where I'm landing on this issue personally, you know, I think my fellow counselors, Counselor Caraviallo and Counselor Scarpelli, make many points that I actually really agree with. I mean, in general, across many city departments, I'm, you know, passionately believe in bringing more things in-house to, you know, to the greatest extent. I think it makes sense fiscally. I think it's the right thing to do, you know, whether that's DPW or even our housing resources. I think that these are goals that we need to be holding the administration to. At the same time, you know, we've already talked about navigability, sidewalk accessibility earlier this meeting in the context of the snow removal ordinance. And I think that that is a really pressing issue that affects, you know, many residents of the city. And I think when we think about accessibility, when we think about equity, you know, navigation accessibility has to be a big part of that. So, you know, while, you know, I think that there's a lot of very important consideration to be had over the topic that this brings up, I would support a motion to approve for first reading tonight because, you know, while there may be a hypothetical better scenario for addressing the issue of our dilapidated sidewalks across the city, I think that, you know, we have, we do have crumbling sidewalks right now that do need to be addressed this year. So, you know, I would support a motion to approve, but I would also say, you know, for going forward, I think that a better approach is something that we need to continue to prioritize and develop a strategy around. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Collins. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you. Do we have money in free cash?
Free cash is in the certification process, but yes, the answer is absolutely, we do are estimating.
Do you have a guesstimate number?
I'm hesitant to make a
Guesstimate. I'm
statement.
not asking for an
Yeah.
exact number.
So in this profession, it is always recommended that a guesstimate not be presented because it goes through a certification process. That being said, what I can guesstimate is, and by guesstimate, I mean, I've spoken with the interim finance
Yeah.
director on the subject, is that we are within a reasonable, we're close to the last prior year's fiscal cash number.
About $8 million.
That's right.
Somewhere around there.
Again, please don't hold me to that.
No.
It's not final until it's final.
No. Yeah, no. No, I'm just curious where we were in that. And maybe that's something you want to take the money out of there and spend it out of there, so we don't have to take a loan. Because we say this, somewhere along the line, you're going to be coming up here for a lot of loans, and you're gonna have to figure out where our priorities are. Yeah, you know, we had a school department here a couple of hours ago. That's going to be looking for some serious money. You know, I mean, how much do we? How much can we afford to bond? And that's, you know, that gets to be a question too.
And President Morrell, if I may, without necessarily touching on every point you made, Counselor Caraviallo, I would say that the work of the school department is further down the road. And while I was not specific to Vice President Bears's question, it's hard for me to imagine that there's going to be a lot of overlap between these sidewalk bonds that are being presented tonight and the high school itself. That being said, again, it's all based on what makes sense with the city's debt schedule, what makes sense in terms of the outlook of future debt. And those are discussions that are ongoing on a regular basis, annually, probably quarterly at a minimum, that occur in the development of the overall long-term strategic financial plan. And I'll also state, if I may, that I would not recommend using free cash for sidewalk capital infrastructure, strictly because the city's essentially rainy day fund is its free cash. And so for that reason, I wouldn't recommend that.
Thank you, Chief of Staff. Did you have something, Counselor Scarpelli, or no? Okay. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. And I think, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again, but we do have this $100 million plus backlog on roads and sidewalk repair. and I'm not trying to tie this specific request to that necessarily, but this is 1 million versus 100 million in total need, 100 million or more now probably. And I think it speaks to what Councilor Scarpelli was speaking about earlier when the schools came up is, we have hundreds of millions of dollars of capital need in this city across things that affect every single person in this city, schools, fire, roads, IT. To be honest, I think we could throw in the bathrooms at City Hall if anyone's come down here lately. There's just a ton of capital need, and Councilor Singh made a good point too. When we do the small stuff, but we don't address the substantive foundational issue, is that a good long-term strategy? I don't think so, and I don't think that's the long. I hear when you're talking about the long-term strategy, Madam Chief of Staff of this administration. I think it sounds like we're moving in a different direction from where we've been in the past, several decades of kind of taking it off a small piece at a time. So while I'm encouraged by some of the rhetoric, I think, I think this whole city could really get behind a comprehensive plan to address our capital needs in the numbers that we're really talking about, in the numbers of those large, 100 million plus for roads, 100 million plus for schools, probably more than that, tens of millions for the fire stations at least. And I think if we could bring everyone together around a comprehensive way to fund that, that would move us in a great direction to solving problems that we hear about from everybody who lives in this city, that we heard about tonight when we're talking about snow shoveling, when you can't get down the sidewalk because it's cracked and broken, so I just think that's the direction we should be moving in sooner rather than later. And I hope that all of the bodies of city government, ourselves, the school committee, and the mayor can be on the same page as we move forward. Thank you.
President Morrell. Just on the suggestion that Vice President Bears made, if I could just appeal to the City Council for one moment. I think the suggestion by Vice President Bears makes a lot of sense for both the process to consider moving forward these items, as well as for the City Council, because you do get another so-called bite at the apple. In the third reading, you could vote this item down if you did not feel sufficient information was presented to you all. So I would please ask that we try to, just in a collaborative effort and a request of your indulgence and your willingness to just hear additional information. I'd be happy to make sure that all of your questions are answered before your meeting of the third reading, if the City Council members would be so inclined. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chief of Staff.
I would move to approve for first reading.
On the motion of Vice President Bears to approve for first reading, seconded by Councillor Collins. Mr. Clerk, is there any discussion for members of the public? Or discussion from the council? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
For first reading, Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Councilor Carviallo.
No.
Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight is absent. Councilor Scarpelli.
No.
Councilor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes. 4 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, 1 absent. The motion passes. 22-318 to President Nicole Morrell and honorable members of the Medford City Council from Mayor Brianna Longo-Kern regarding loan order stump removal bonds. Dear Madam President and City Councilors, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approve the following loan order. City of Medford loan order stump removal bonds. Be it ordered that the sum of $250,000 be and hereby is appropriated for the purpose of removing stumps for the improvement of public lands throughout the city, including all costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the city treasurer, with approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said sum under and pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), as amended and supplemented, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city therefore. And further ordered that the city treasurer is authorized to file an application with the appropriate officials of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, hereinafter the Commonwealth, to qualify under Chapter 44A of General Laws, any and all bonds or notes of the city authorized by the vote or pursuant to any prior vote of the city, and in connection therewith to provide such information and execute such documents as such officials of the Commonwealth may require. Very truly yours, Mayor Brianna Longo-Kern. 22-318 regarding Council Paper 22-318, loan order opinion stump removal bonds. Dear Madam President and members of the Medford City Council, in accordance with the provisions of Medford City Council Rule 22, I have examined the above captioned loan order as to its legality and hereby submit my findings. I certify that the loan order set forth in Council Paper 22-318, in which authorization is sought to borrow $250,000 for the purpose of removing stumps for the improvement of public lands throughout the city, including all costs and incidental and related thereto, and to issue bonds or notes of the city in said aggregate principal amount under and pursuant to general laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, 1, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto is valid. I am of the opinion that there is lawful authority for the issuance of said bonds under the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts presently in force. I further certify that the purposes for which these bonds are to be issued, i.e. to remove stumps for the improvement of public lands throughout the city and to issue bonds for notes of the city in said aggregate principal amount of $250,000 under and pursuant to general laws, Chapter 44, Section 7-1, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, is valid under the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts presently in force. Respectfully submitted, Kimberly M. Scanlon. There is 2 footnotes as in the previous paper explaining Council Rule 22, as well as General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, which I read on the previous paper. Any questions, Vice President Bears?
Thank you, Madam President. I guess 2 questions. One is going to be the same question as before, and I understand if you don't have the answer right in front of you, but do you have an estimate on how many stumps this loan order may be able to remove across the city? And then secondly, I know I was able to work with Senator Jalen and Representative Barber, Donato, and Garbely to get an earmark for the city for ARPA money for $100,000 for tree planting and stump removal. Is this going to be used in concert with those funds?
President Morrell? Through you to Vice President Bears, thank you for bringing up the work that was completed, and thank you for that work to secure $100,000 through the state delegation. Yes, it would be worked in concert, as well as funding that's available through CDBG. So for a total of $500,000 with the objective to remove the vast majority of stumps across the city.
Great. Thank you so much. That's exciting, and I hope we can get it done.
Thank
Councilor
you.
Carviallo.
Same.
This is from the state's first ARPA bill, so it's not the federal allocation, separate from the 50 million that we're getting as a city. The ARPA bill from last year that the State House passed, it was $100,000 for tree planting and stump removal was one of the earmarks we were able to achieve. That's for planting and removal, yes. Yeah.
Thank you too then. And I stand corrected, 600,000. We've got 100,000 plus 250 as presented here and 250 CDBG. So I think I stated 500,000 a moment ago.
Any further discussion from the council?
One more, if you don't mind, Madam President. Just what's the expected timeline? Is this like this year and next year, or?
Based on discussions with the engineering division, the planned approach is to conduct the work over the course of this current calendar year. But I honestly suspect that this work, based on the impact and based on the span of area, will likely go over the course of a year and a half or so, or 2 construction seasons. It's a big undertaking. That's obviously something that's not that's known to you all more than it is to me, I'm sure. But stumps have been an issue within the city for quite some time, and so taking this major it's a major undertaking, and I'm sure there are going to be unexpected issues that come up along the way. Frankly.
One final question. Will the stumps be, after removed, will they be removed from the city? Will they be chipped up and ground? I know that we've had some ongoing issues at the Brooks Estate and the Oak Grove Cemetery with the stump dump. The stump dump is full, as far as I'm aware. So do you know if they're going to be, basically, are these going to the stump dump, or are they leaving the city?
If it hasn't already been written into the contract, before the contract goes out, we will certainly ensure that stumps are not dumped in the city of Medford.
Great, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Any further discussion from the council? Counselor Collins,
I would just motion for approval.
and the motion of Counselor
Madam
Collins,
President,
Counselor Carviallo.
I'm sorry. Madam Chief, can I have that, the final number with the loan and that we're looking for and the grant, what was it?
Certainly.
600
Yes, $600,000
So 600, that's with the grants that we already have, correct?
in total. President Morrell, through you, $250,000 proposed for this loan order.
Right.
$250,000 through CDBG funds and $100,000 through work between yourself and Vice President Bears.
And Madam Chief of Staff, if I could through the chair, so outside of the $100,000, this is explicitly just stumps. There's no, tree planting for those. I know not everyone who has a stump wants a tree to be replaced, but this is literally just removal.
I know that there's presently the work that the city does with stump removal presently includes replacement with trees, but I would need to look into that further, and I don't want to, at this point in time, guarantee without diving a little bit deeply into that. But I do know that that's been the historical approach to stump removal, and hope when I look into it, that's the way that the estimate's been prepared.
Okay.
I will also say that on the last comment, one thing I would like to also note is that the costs associated with this work may also include costs associated with support for the administration of the work. So a small portion of those costs would probably be used for administration to make sure that the work gets done, the stumps are removed where they're contracted to be removed, and so on and so forth. So just wanted to also make sure the city council knew that based on your questions.
Okay, and I would hope that, if it's not in process, that they're automatically being replaced with trees, or that's not in process, that people can be let known the process to get a tree, because folks may have had stumps in front of their house for 10 years at this point, and they don't know the process to at least get on the list to get a tree. So just making sure that information gets communicated. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you. When they do the stumps, and I know we have many stumps out there, and usually the stump involves ripping the sidewalk along with it. And what the common complaint is these stumps have caused people's pipes in the houses and walls, retaining walls to break. So I would hope that whatever contractor we hire is going to have sufficient insurance coverage to cover the damage that goes along with taking out a stump. Stump is not like taking out a sidewalk. Those roots go, these are 100-year-old trees. They run deep and they run into people's yards, and I can hear it now. We can't go into people's yards. But so again, that's the engineering department should get their list and make sure that the places they're going to do it don't involve going on private property. Because again, I think the one Mr. D'Antonio mentioned, the guy in Yale Street, stump is this high, and the sidewalk is just about as high as the stump. I would hope that there's a list and the people will be notified that the stump's going to be taken out, so they can watch for it, because you could be causing damage to these people's lands and pipes that these stumps have wrapped around over the last 100 years. So.
And the only comment I'll add there through you, President Morrell, is that we are obligated in accordance with the statutes pertaining to borrowing to only conduct stump removal on public property.
Any further discussion from the council? Members of the public wishing to speak? On the motion of Counselor Collins to approve for first reading, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Singh. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
For first reading, Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight is absent. Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes. 6 in the affirmative, 1 absent, and motion passes. Moving on to. Thank you, Madam Chief of Staff. Reports of committees. 22-012, April 12th, Committee of the Whole, meeting report to follow. That was our meeting on the council rules, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And we just went through all of those. So do I have a motion on the floor?
Motion
Motion to
approved.
accept.
Motion of Vice President Barris, seconded by Councilor Carviallo to accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion passes. 22-312, April 13th, 2022, Committee of the Whole, meeting report to follow. This
CDBG.
is CDBG, where we have presentations from the public service agencies seeking funding from our CDBG federal funding. And that paper will go for public, it'll be a public hearing, it'll be posted in the transcript, and that'll come before the council, I think, in the first week of May, if not around that time frame. Do I have a motion on the floor?
Motion to accept.
On the motion of Vice President Barris to accept, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Carviallo, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to take papers in the clerk.
On the motion of Councilor Carviallo to take papers in the hands of the clerk.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Second by Councilor Vice President Barris, all those in favor? Aye, all those opposed? Motion passes. Sorry, I'm trying to pull this up in my emails up top, and that's fine. Do we have a,
We can get it.
I mean, I can pull it up in the email.
Pull it up if you need it. Pull it up.
I can pull it up. It's from you. 22-329, offered by Councilor Carviallo. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council send its deepest and sincere condolences to the family of John Storella on his recent passing. John served his country as a World War II Navy veteran and was a dentist for 43 years. His presence in the city council chambers will be missed. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Council Scarpelli, for the members who aren't here. Dr. Sorella was, at budget time, was your worst nemesis. I'm telling you, it really was. He'd be down here and he'd be pounding the crap out of us all budget season. But again, he had his beliefs and he was a good financial mind, but he just never believed in the budget system that we use. And say, if you saw meetings in the past, he'd be here, he'd say budget season, he'd be here forever. But he was a good community man. Comes from, he's got some good sons and who are always volunteering in the community. And he was a good man, good heart. And again, it's one of those iconic characters that are going to be missed. I'll miss him at budget time also, even though he used to kill me at budgets. But he had his beliefs and he stuck to them, and I respected him for that.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Council Carviallo, for bringing this forward. When, one thing you haven't seen here in a while is Ms. Sorella, and unfortunately, you know why now. And I know he was a strong man and felt very, very confident in his convictions. And he wasn't afraid to tell you either. He'd look you right in the eye and tell you, you don't know what you're talking about. And you can't begrudge a person that loves Medford that much in its budget system and the way he wanted to see it run. And he made you, what I liked about Mr. Strella, he told you right to your face. He didn't hide behind anybody. He challenged you. And, he made my knees quiver a few times in some of the questions he's asked me, because he was a very intelligent person, and something that, one thing you can't deny is that he loved Medford. And you could tell by how many meetings he came and expressed his concerns about this city's fiscal responsibilities and where they were going. So he will be missed. So he is, right. He did say a lot of, it's like Nostradamus of the financial world here in Medford. So, but he will be missed. So his condolences to his family.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Name and address for the record, please. It'll come on. It takes a minute. It'll come out on its own. There you go.
Okay, Dr. Storella, he was a character. He had quite a career in the Navy, and he came to become second in command to LSM 548, which is a landing ship for personnel on the beaches. And the amazing thing with Dr. Storella is he had chronic seasickness and he was in the Navy. It was unbelievable, this guy. But he was smart. He was a creator. He was an inventor. He was well-read. He was honest. And he never turned away anybody that came to his dental office in East Boston that didn't have any money. Rick, you might remember this, I don't know, but one time he came up to make a presentation up to the podium. He created a plexiglass thing like a podium so he could hold the thing up. I mean, he was a character. And he used to drive this huge Lincoln Continental. And then we were all relieved when he came one day and he had one of those small little, what do you call those little suckers there, like a Fiat or something. But he was on his way to perfecting a way to win at craps. And he was confident that he had it. And unfortunately, he passed. But a nice man. And he's a true Medford spirit, true Medford spirit. So we're going to miss him because, huh? Oh, very nice. So that's that. And then that's it.
Thank you, Mr. D'Antonio. If the clerk would like to speak on this as well, and then I do see Mr. Castagnetti on Zoom.
Counselors, if you'll indulge me for a minute, I got a couple of funny Dr. Storella stories that I think need to be shared tonight. He was a really good man. He was a kind man. He was a funny man. He had his principles and he had his beliefs and he stuck to them. And he would come into my office and he would, for lack of a better phrase, he would harass me about the oath forms that we used to administer all the oaths of office. He thought they were unwieldy, and we've been doing it for 40 years was not the right answer for that one. He thought we should change it. And in the middle of one of those discussions about the oath form, we got talking about his dental practice, and I happened to mention that my wisdom teeth are still in my mouth, and that was it. He pulled out the pen light and he said, "Let's go." And I had to open up and he stuck the pen light in my mouth. It felt like he had his whole head in my mouth as he was sticking the pen light in there. And at that point, everybody on my team in my office decided to come ask me questions while Dr. Storella had his head in my mouth examining my wisdom teeth. So, and that was one of the last times he was in my office. So I'm always going to have a big laugh when I think of Dr. Storella. He was a good man. He was a kind man. He loved this city, and he was fun to be around, whether you agreed with him or not. So I'm going to miss him.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Castagnetti, name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Castanetti, East Medford. Am I coming across?
Yep, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm very, very sorry. Dr. Storella is gone, but he will never be forgotten because he was and is the best patriot who's for the people and for limited taxation here in Medford. He's the best ever, and he's irreplaceable. Madam President, may I say a short prayer for him and us, please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Almighty God, creator of heaven, earth, all sentient beings and more, please get me and all of us to be and do the best that we can now, always, forever and ever in our quest for eternal, blissful peace. Rest in peace, my friend. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Castagnetti. On the motion of Counselor Carviallo, second by
Second.
Counselor Scarpelli, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, please rise for a brief moment of silence. That was the only paper, correct? Moving on to public participation. If there are any members of the public, either on Zoom or in person, who would like to speak.
Only one?
Tired. As I was sitting there, I got 27 text messages from 8 different people. The system goes off. You can't hear. It stays off. It's distorted. The chyron on the bottom is totally out of control. It's like on LSD or something, because you can't read what's going on at the bottom. If the gentleman in there needs help, let's get him some help. If it's the equipment, let's get the equipment in here. I mean, I can't watch it on TV. That's why I came down tonight. I'd be like, I'm having a Seagrams or something, but they can't do it.
So we did ask.
Did you?
I guess what we heard is that Verizon is working, but there is something going on with Comcast and a piece of equipment at the station that needs to be replaced.
Good.
And I believe they're looking into it right now.
Yeah.
So I guess Verizon, you can see everything's fine, but it's the Comcast connection that they're trying to fix.
Because I got Comcast.
Figures it's Comcast.
Thank you, Mr. D'Antonio, for raising that. Vice President Barris?
Just on that point, the online stream is also working. So online and Verizon are working. But there's something wrong with the box, Comcast box,
Trying
basically.
to fix it now.
Additional public participation? Seeing none, moving to records. The records of the meeting
Madam
of
President.
Vice President Barris.
Soon to be regular counselor Bears. Just in terms of the reports due, I did receive information from Director O'Connor and Commissioner Moki regarding several items that we had requested information about that are currently on our reports due and deadlines. For 20-085, the 90-day review on the 360 health and fitness, there were no complaints. For 20-562 and 20-563, the signs on the XSS hotels, there were no complaints. For 20-586, the Fells Way Dunkin' Donuts, there was one complaint regarding masking over a year ago. Director O'Connor did not feel that it would preclude us, revoking their license. 20-639, Last Light Tattoo Studio, there were no complaints, and 21-363, the Herb Chambers BMW Class 2 auto sales and Class 4 auto repair, there were no complaints. So I would move to place papers 20-085, 20-562, 20-563, 20-586, 20-639, and 21-363 on file.
On the motion of Vice President Barris, place 20-085, 20-562, 20-563, 20-586, 20-639, and 21-363. Is that all of them?
Correct.
On file, seconded by Counselor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. And on to records. The records of the meeting of April 12th, 2022 were passed to Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Scarpelli, how did you find them? On the motion of Counselor Scarpelli, second by Vice President Barris. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. On the motion of Vice President Barris to adjourn, second by Counselor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The meeting is adjourned.